common man who is well educated. I'm talking about people who are uh, policymakers or something like that, and people who are, it's kind of who can take decisions. So we thought, what was happened all these years, and okay, but last 2 years was a real challenge for us, all of us. We started joining these WhatsApp universities and tried working on how we can best work on. What I have to say is, I saw there are two narratives going on. One narrative says you have to follow this, and all that, and there is no other option. You have to go for a strong pro-lobby. Somebody talking about pro-vaccine. And I was the one, I started talking about pentavalent vaccines. I was against pentavalent vaccines and hexavalent vaccines. And everyone in my medical field, they dumped me. They said, "Arey, he's an anti-vaccinist." No, I believe that a vaccine is a vaccine. But something like smallpox vaccine, what was that? I had never seen that kind of vaccine. Whatever Edward Jenner has created that vaccine, and that was one of the thing which was real vaccine. Now that what we are adding is a lot of preservative, so many, we call this particular vaccines right now as very suboptimal. They're not very active vaccines and all that. They just, one part of the immune system, they try to activate that. See, as a human immune system, I think everyone should know what is human immune system. People have worked, like I had, somehow I felt there was one doctor called Sucharit Bhakdi. He has compared human immune system to Air Force and Navy. So what happens is that, what I can just give you the oral mucosa and the lungs and all that, that is, this is that Air Force, mucosal immunity, what we call. There is another immunity, which is systemic immunity, which is because of the spleen, lymph nodes, and internal kind of things. So this guy has compared one mucosal immunity to the Air Force, and the other systemic immunity to the naval force. So what happens when we have slightly not as it, I think as a doctor also, it was difficult for me to understand what is happening. We were always concentrating on antibodies. There is a thing called innate immunity and acquired immunity. So if you have got a good innate immunity is your intrinsic inbuilt kind of stuff. And you don't have to depend on that systemic, I'll just give you that acquired and this one, Air Force as well as Navy. When we look into that particular thing, when we have a proper entry of any germs, any kind of thing to the aerodigestive system, mucosal part, you will get a robust immunity. That's what happened with all of us during all this pandemic. We got into things, probably we had 1-day fever, 2-day fever or something like that, and we got good robust immunity. The second part is the systemic immunity. Systemic immunity is usually through the spleen, lymph nodes, and the other organs. So for that, it is a naval kind of thing. Normally what is being done with this vaccine is you are injecting parenterally into the muscle and all that. So what happens is that we are only working on the spike part of the vaccine is only the spike part, pertaining to the spike part of the virus. Virus has got a body, head, body and tail, and the spike. So somewhere the immunity which you get through the innate immunity, in that natural immunity, you get acquired, whole body gets immune of the whole virus. Your body understands head, body and tail of the virus, and it is able to tackle a good defense. What is happening with the only spike part is there is some kind of imbalance, there is some kind of disimmune regulation which is happening, so that the immune system is not getting very mature. So with that kind of thing, we felt yes, there has to be some this one, and the only what are the areas what we are trying to focus is very simple, and we are not against any kind of vaccination and all that, but somewhere when there are so many cases which have been one second. There is a lecture just found. My lecture. So what I was trying to tell was that the narrative which was told that you had to get immunized as quickly as possible, everyone complied and all that. When we look into the models of how things have done and the work of Amitabh Banerjee, and there are different big epidemiologists and all that who has done a very good work, we are able to get to that all that stuff, and we felt that there is something which we are missing actually, and when we looked into the parameters, and we had something like people who are having COVID vaccination, and again they get into some infection and all that. Yeah, I got my presentation now. I'm so sorry I kept you in a different loop. Next, please. Yeah. So I just wanted to start actually with this boy crying, and you can just see what is this. Here, it's not coming here. It's not coming here. Okay. So you can always see on the line phone, maybe you can get it. So this boy is crying because his grandparents have died of COVID. Is he worried about losing his parents to COVID? And is he frightened about dying from COVID himself? Or is he worried that he may be forced to take COVID vaccine again? Can you go back to that? Okay. So I felt there are some things which, as a doctor also, I felt, am I doing enough for my patients? What I am working on this, and most of the people who are vaccinated, who have got good this particular stuff, so we were perplexed. We were thinking, why this antibiotics not working? It was the dyskinetic immune system, which was you can always, there is a seesaw, and there is one side is TH1, other side is TH2, and there is disbalance between these two, which resulted in all the problems. And we were what the people having their cytokine storm, so many things and all that. We felt we are not doing enough for them. So then we figured out something has to be worked at that level, and we started working on this integrative medicine model. We tried working on something like vitamin D supplementation, tried to work with high dose vitamin C. We worked on something like managing the diet. There is a sleep wakefulness cycle was the big area. Judge Garu, what I can tell you is, during all this pandemic, people were frightened. There are two things which have happened in this pandemic. The people who are scared, number one, and everyone started working with the work from home culture. And people were there indoors only. Nobody was ready to go and sit in the sunlight also. So all their vitamin D levels, everything was plummeted. And so another thing which was the key part was the melatonin levels. Melatonin was something like you only during the sleep. If you don't have a sleep wakefulness cycle correct, your melatonin levels are jeopardized. So again, trying to restore that diurnal cycle. And what I can tell you, what my dad and long time back, you need to sleep at the right time, 10 o'clock in the night, and get up in the 6 o'clock. So what I feel is during this generation, nobody's doing that. They don't sleep at 10 o'clock and get up at 6 o'clock. The person who sleeps at 10 o'clock and gets at 6 o'clock, he is having a good melatonin levels, and he has got a very robust immune system, because that is the higher level which works on that. So basically, immune system is very complex, and we never thought it was so this one. And apart from that, we worked on some other area, trying to work with the nutrition part. Nutrition is one thing called refined vegetable oils. We asked everyone to stop using refined vegetable oils. Used something like cold pressed oil or use something like ghee, and that also resulted in good stuff. So I'll do one thing here. I okay, Ashutosh, and welcome Ashutosh ji. And this is being worked by some people. I can always tell you this UHO, what we have done here, it is a handiwork of one person. You are going to meet is Professor Bhaskar Raman. He is going to join me right now here. And Dr. Veena Raghav, both of them has taken pains to come from Mumbai and Bangalore here. And there are other stalwarts, Dr. Amitabh Banerjee, he is alive with us now, Dr. Arvind Kushwaha, and the bigger, we call it as a Sarthi, is Ashutosh Pathak ji, and he has done a great kind of work in synergy in bringing all the people together. And here exactly, I would like to stop here. I'd like to take some questions and all that later on. I felt there were some case studies that I just wanted to show. Can you just scroll it, this one? Good. Slide number, you can go to, yeah. Please go down. Yeah, next. So we were talking about these two prevailing narratives, and we were the first people who thought the prevailing narrative is not very, somehow the thought-provoking people who are really, it's not totally foolproof. So we have, next slide please. So according to this alternative narrative, we've, no problem. So according to this, okay. Alternative, this one, next slide please. I just wanted to show you some of the crux cases and all that where we try to work on that. Next please. Immune system, we are talking about immune and adaptive immunity, and somehow I always believe the old timers, particularly what I can, I have a great regard. I do a lot of geriatric practice, and people are 60, 70 plus, I have a great regard, and somehow they have got a good innate immunity rather than this adaptive immunity. Next slide please. Another next slide. So I was talking about this Navian based. Next slide. This is what I was trying to talk about: mucosal immunity and systemic immune system. If we start with mucosal immune system and go with this one, that is a great kind of stuff. And this is next slide, please. I see a lot of next slide. Next slide. Raman. So Raman, you can take some next slide, please. Here, I just want to show some of the things which I felt it is necessary at this hour. The kind of which has been somebody with his active person dies instantly, giving a show is particularly not a next slide. I just want to go further. Next. So what we were trying to work on that, the kind of guys who has done work, Vanden Bosch, who was a leading proponent of alternate narrative, he disagrees to this particular view of pandemic of the unvaccinated. Next slide, please. Next slide. Come on. Next. I'll just try to. So we, as a group, I had a case here. Go back. The Association of Cerebral Vascular Thrombosis. I do my active practice. I have a case who has got a superior sagittal sinus thrombosis, and we have invited a mother who lost her daughter to this sagittal sinus thrombosis. She's expected anytime now. And next slide. So these are all the cases which are the next year. So there was a case studies. This is the data I have got with me now. 1,024 athletes had cardiac arrest and serious issues, and out of that, 666 people died after COVID shot. And I have all the data with them. I can give all the list of the people who died actually. Mostly footballers were the more affected ones. Can you go down, Raman? Can you go down? Ramanji? So it is definitely not normal for so many young athletes to suffer from cardiac arrest. We have read in medicine, people used to have cross-country runners running for miles and all that. They used to have something called ventricular fibrillation because of dehydration and all that. But this numbers, really, it was an eye opener actually, and you cannot have anything like that unless you have something which has created your thrombogenicity and all that in a big way. Raman, can you just go down? I think I'll take 2 or 3 slides more. Slightly. These are the cases which we felt. Next slide, Raman. I just wanted to stop with one more case here. Can you go down? Okay. So the thing what we were looking for is basically there is a sudden spurt in cases, and sudden spurt in cases of autoimmune disease, sudden spurt in cases of cardiac issues, neurological issues. People are having something like thrombosis, hemorrhage and all that, and we are not able to understand what is it. I want to tell you, as a radiologist, we have the capacity, we have something like cardiac MRI, we do it, and with that we can pick up myocarditis or pericarditis, and we can tell that this is because of the vaccine. We have the technology with us, and we want people who are having some health issues and all that to reach out to the doctors, tell them, at least go for a follow-up at least, because what happens is that it is really, we are not able to digest why this singer KK dies all of a sudden. He's not able to reach to that place. And I have another case study. Can you just scroll down? I will end with this particular stuff. 55-year-old male patient is my family friend, and he gets into a sudden kind of ACS kind of problem in the early morning. He's a jogger, he is a vegetarian, he is not smoker, he's a very active and agile person, and he gets into some ACS, he has a cardiac pain and all that, shifted to the hospital. There was a ST elevations from V1 to V6, and immediately angiography was performed. Angiography showed 100% block in the LCX. It happened on 1st of June, sorry. So later on, primary angioplasty was done, and there was a thrombus which was there, and it was taken out. Hats off to the doctors who has done that kind of work. So this particular stuff, what I mean to say is, very few lucky people can get that primary angioplasty get done. You have to reach to the hospital right time. And when all the coronary arteries are normal, what is that which has made a thrombus sits inside the artery? There has to be something. So this is what we are. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is the patient is doing well now, but somewhere we felt yes, he had 3 months back he took a Covishield, and there were cases of optic neuropathy also were described. We were following 2 cases of optic neuropathy, sir, after post-jab, and it is being proved on this studies also. Next slide. There was a case of hearing loss, which was this one. I think this is what exactly I wanted. Next slide, Bhaskar. Cardiovascular and hematological events post-COVID-19, there's a systemic review which was done, and all I'm trying to present is the peer-reviewed journal studies. And what they showed was vaccine at the core. See, this is how we can always learn from past mistakes, what has been done. Next slide. Yeah, so I would like to not talk about these problems with COVID PCR test and COVID data collection to date. I would like Raman Bhaskarji to come up and talk about that. Like to take questions, anything can be taken later also. Thank you. Raman.
It would be good if you're not speaking to put your controls on mute.
Okay.
So we're having a lot of noise in the background, so everyone should put their mic on mute.
Sound is issue. Ashutoshji, you are getting a sound properly? Ashutoshji? Okay. Okay, I'd like to invite Raman Bhaskar. And before that, Bina Raga, if she can come and share the dais with us. Yeah, please. He is ready. I think, is it audible now?
I'll just okay. I'll just point out a few things. Going back to when this all started, if you go back to March 2020, there was an announcement made by Dr. Tedros, who's a director of World Health Organization. Okay. Okay. He switched off both.
No. It's on.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. This won't go on QI then.
It's going.
Okay. Right. Please.
We're going to get the echo again.
Okay. You can always. You can. Now you go. Now you go.
Okay. So the announcement by Dr. Tedros on 3rd March 2020 was that you see, we need to set the audio video first before starting. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess.
It's okay. You can continue. People are listening.
I'm not able to continue. This keeps happening. Huh? So,
Just please.
Now you can speak. You can speak.
There's a sound of
Have we lost sound?
Okay. Okay, so the the gist of the press conference was that the mortality rate he announced of COVID-19 was 3.4%. Specific wording was globally about 3.4% of the reported COVID-19 cases have died. In the very next sentence, he compares, by comparison, seasonal flu generally kills far fewer than 1% of those infected. So this statement is accurate. The difference is that 6.4% mentioned is the case fatality rate, which is the ratio of people who have died with respect to the number of detected cases. And it is well known that the seasonal influenza, the infection fatality rate, which is the percentage of people who die as a ratio of the number of people infected, not the hospitalized cases, is about 0.1%. So the media ran with this comparison of 3.4% versus 0.1%. So it was projected as if COVID was more than 30 times more deadly compared to what people are used to. So this was the picture which was presented by this very likely deliberate comparison, side-by-side comparison of the case fatality rate of COVID with the infection fatality rate of influenza. Let me show you this picture.
Hello.
So this picture should give you an idea of the comparison. The case fatality rate is the number of deaths divided by the clinical cases. Clinical cases which reach hospital, most likely. Infection fatality rate, whereas, is the ratio with the numerator is the same, the denominator is the number of infections, most of which are subclinical, are not even detected. So this side-by-side comparison was a very flawed approach to the entire thing. So let me show you another graph. So this graph shows you the various numbers which have been put out since the beginning of, since that time. The first bar shown here is the infection fatality rate of influenza, which is 0.1%, around 0.1% known to be, which is what people have been used to since the ages. The next bar is the case fatality rate of COVID, which was projected to be 3.4%. This was in the WHO announcement. What happened was that not only that, Lancet, which is one of the leading journals, came out in July 2020 saying that even the 3.4% is an underestimate. What they called as mortality rate, they didn't clarify whether it was case fatality rate or infection fatality rate. The Lancet paper called the mortality rate to be about 5.6%, and in fact claimed that in places outside of China, it is as high as 15%. So you see the comparison. What people are used to is 0.1%. What Lancet is saying is the mortality rate, which is a completely false comparison, is 15.2%. So 150 times more deadly compared to what people are used to. This was the picture which was painted, and it was a completely false picture. Even as early as April 2020, studies came out. There was a famous Santa Clara study by John Ioannidis. He came out saying that, look, most of the infections are subclinical, and the measured infection fatality rate at that time in Santa Clara County was only 0.17%, 20 times lesser than what was claimed by WHO. and in the same range as what people are used to. Surely 0.17% is more than 0.1%. It is more deadly than flu, but it is in the same range. It is not 30 times, it is not 150 times more deadly. Later studies, the median IFR, again by Ioannidis, this was actually in the World Health Organization bulletin itself. He published in October 2020. He came out with the number of 0.27%. And interestingly, in the same paper, he mentions that for under 70-year-olds, which is most of the population, India, the life expectancy is 69 years. So for under 70, he came out with a number of 0.05%, which is half that of flu. And my own analysis of the Mumbai data has shown that for under 50 years old, it is 0.03%, much less than seasonal influenza. And this is, the best data we have in India. Mumbai is supposed to be one of the best data collectors among the various places in India. So what I'm telling is this entire thing which has been made out to be a huge, as a once in a century pandemic, hoo-ha, is all a myth. It's not that the disease is not there, it is there. And it is more deadly than what we are used to. However, the comparisons are far more nuanced, and there has been no reason for stopping the world for 2 years.
Yeah, please.
I think
Recovery rate of this particular.
let's do that. I just show one. Okay, talks about.
So it was basically all the statistics and all that we were never viewing actually. We just thought these are the things which are projected. We thought it was the 1 in 6 person is going to get affected. And it was all, yeah, please.
So this thing has gone again. Okay, I'll just read out the question. So why has this kind of panic been created? So that you can put 2 and 2 together by answering this question. So the question is, I have gone through the Pfizer's children's trial, the document which was presented towards the end of October last year for FDA approval. In that, the trial conducted by Pfizer, the number of kids in the vaccine group was 1,518, and the number of kids in the control group was 750. I would like you to guess as to how many children were saved from COVID-19 hospitalization in the vaccine group compared to the control group. And the options are nearly 100%, about 75%, about 50%, about 25%, or none, 0. Okay, so let me read the question again. In the Pfizer's children's trial, vaccine group had 1,518 kids, control group had 750. What percentage of children were saved from hospitalization, COVID-19 hospitalization? That was the basis of the vaccine approval for children in the US. Okay, so can you guess the number? Yeah, so the options are near 100, near 50, near 75, near 25, and 0. Anyone like to take a guess? Nearly 50%. In the media, you hear, no? The efficacy in saving hospitalization is near 100%. So why not near 100%? Okay, your guess is 0.
Come on.
So you can go check the paper. The answer is 0. Okay? Because there was no hospitalization in either the vaccine group or the control group. This was true not only in the age 5 to 11 age group, it is also true in the age 12 to 25 age group. No hospitalization. In fact, not even no severe COVID. So their efficacy is 0 by 0, which is mathematically indeterminate. Or if you look at absolute risk reduction, it is 0 minus 0, which is 0. This is the product which is being injected into millions of children in the US. You can see how absurd it is. They have concocted the story of huge danger and selling these injections for children. Okay, so I'm done with this. Yeah.
How many people or what is the percentage of mortality because of the medication or is there any data?
There are specific analysis of what happened in the New York first wave. There are documented cases of that ventilator fiasco happened, which killed a lot of people. So that there are some numbers. I don't remember them. Likewise, there are also studies which have shown that remdesivir has a overall negative effect. So that also was strongly pushed both in the US and in India during the second wave. So how many fell victim to this unnecessary negative effect medication, which was sold in the black for lakhs? We don't know. Dr. Veena?
We have Dr. Veena Raghav, all the way she has come from Bangalore. She used to manage all ICU and all that. She's an intensivist, anesthetist. And I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Ram Satpalkar sir and madam. Thanks for coming, sir. Thanks, ma'am. Dr. Veena has come all the way from Bangalore, and now she is into mostly to something like holistic medicine, and she talks about nutritional medicine a lot. Dr. Veena, welcome to Hyderabad, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody, and namaskar to all the elderly audience who's available here. And thank you, Dr. Praveen, for arranging this excellent meeting over here. And to tell you about myself, I have done my MBBS way back in 1983 from Madras Medical College. And after that, I came to Bangalore and did my anesthesia. And I've been working in the ICU and anesthesia for the past 40 years totally. And so we've been through the first wave, and even through the second wave, I was still working. And continuously we were in the ICU. And what happened is I was refusing to take the vaccine. I was refusing to wear a mask. And I've never worn a PPE kit. So I was practically dismissed from the ICU. And I didn't want to work in a place where everything was farce. So I also walked out. I said, thank you, and I walked out. And in the meantime, for the past 20 years, we're also working on clinical nutrition. And with clinical nutrition as an allopath, I take care of all the blood tests and everything that has to be done as a clinical physician. But when it comes to the treatment, we prescribe more of a lifestyle change, exercise, holistic approach, nutrition, and we try to get people out of their medication. So to give you a simple example, we all know that people have hypertension, And in our textbooks, it is written that 85% of the hypertension is idiopathic. Idiopathic means cause not known. So when the cause is not known, it's up to the doctor to treat. So either you give a beta blocker, or you give an ACE inhibitor, or you give whatever drug you want. You give a diuretic, so it's up to you. But actual cause is the arteries have hardened up as you age, and there's a lot of calcium deposit and things like that. So simple stuff like giving adequate amount of magnesium in the nutrition can bring the BP to normalcy. And you don't need antihypertensive medication for that. So we've been doing that. And in the meantime, this whole gimmick about COVID came through, and we saw through it from the very beginning. And we could understand that our innate immunity is about 13 times stronger than the immunity that the vaccine can give you. If it does, the vaccine actually doesn't give you any immunity, because in the beginning they said all those who take the vaccine won't get infected. After that they said, no, you will get infected, but it will be mild. And then they said, no, you will get infection, it may be severe, but you won't die. Then, or maybe they said you won't go to ICU. And the last thing they say, yeah, you will go to ICU, but we can still save you. So, that's how the whole nonsense about this vaccine is going on. And we people, we've been fighting and fighting and fighting right through. Today in the train, when I was coming also, I spoke to all my co-passengers and told them that this whole thing is like this, and I'm going to attend a meeting where we are all, against the vaccine, and we're all focused on building our own immunity strong so that we get our own protection from the body. So they were all getting scared. I'm sure they didn't sleep the whole night because everybody was vaccinated over there. And to tell you, sir, I have some proof over here of some cases. And before that, I want to talk to you about two or three points regarding this. The first point is, you cannot have a mechanical approach for a medical treatment. You cannot have a like you're not on an assembly line, where all the parts are the same to produce the same product. Like you have a car manufacturing and you have all the same products getting in, getting fitted and coming out. Human beings are not like that. Human beings have different ways of treating themselves. I'm sure most of us have our own grandmother's, formulae that we still use and get better. Some people have their own family doctors whom they trust a lot and they go to them. Some people believe in naturopathy, Ayurveda, Unani. We have to respect everything and not put everybody in the same bracket of vaccine. That is number one. Second thing, even if you try to put it, it's like you're having a circular orifice and you're trying to put a square through it. And each square is a different size because each human being is a different size. Some squares may just fall through, escape, and nothing will happen. Whereas some squares, when you have to put it through, you have to shave all the ends and try to squeeze it through. So when it comes out, obviously it's not a square. That's what happens when you forcefully give vaccine to people who don't deserve to take it. And when they come out, they are handicapped. So we have seen cases where there is Guillain-Barré syndrome, there is neurological deficit, there is increase in epilepsy. We've seen patients where there is optical atrophy, sudden cataract. Cataract takes minimum 6 to 7 months for it to mature, ripen, and actually take off your eyesight. Today you take the injection and tomorrow you have an opaque cataract. This was unheard of. But it has happened after the vaccine, and that too to a pulmonologist doctor who was in Bangalore. She did all her medical examination, she did her test, she took the vaccine, and next day she had a blank eye where she couldn't see anything, and then the doctor said, it's cataract. And she was asking, how can cataract develop so suddenly? There was no answer for that. We have seen people who have optic atrophy. We have seen people with iridocyclitis. We've seen people with, sudden rise in incidences of TB, where the mantle comes positive, 35 induration on the arm when you give a mantle test. Then you've seen increase in all the cancer cases, cancers that are remissions have cropped up again. New cases of cancer, we could see 1 case in a month, now we are seeing 2 cases in a week. It has become that severe. And the third thing what we want to talk to you about is, see, when you do a sero survey, and when you understand that 75, 79, 84% of the population already has antibodies, why do you want to give them more and more vaccine? How much of antibodies are you going to produce? And the best thing is, if people die within 14 days of having taken the vaccine, they say that it is not vaccination death. Because according to them, it takes 14 days for the antibodies to develop. So they say you've taken the vaccine, but the antibodies haven't formed. So in that gap of 14 days, if you have died, it is because of something else, not of the vaccine. This is their, aim and agenda. And the third thing what I want to talk to you is, when we have a public health decision being made, you see, public health will be giving the same tablet to the complete population. That is one type of public health. Second public health is, see to it that everybody gets the treatment that they require. That is also public health. So now what do you want to do? You want to just give one single treatment for the complete population, or you want to allow each person to take whatever is their due? And I have a few graphs over here which I would want to show to you guys. And since they've put on the light, this is one graph that you can see. Can you see there's only one single red line over here? People ask me, ma'am, why are you so against the COVID vaccine? Don't you say that other vaccines can also produce side effects? Don't they produce death? Yes. So we have graphs from 1990, including all the vaccinations that are available in the world globally, and all the graphs of death is at rock bottom. And when it comes to the year 2020, 2021, the graph is over here. The spike is right on top. This is a total eye-opener, and this is from CDC. I haven't made this. This is from CDC, and they believe more in CDC actually, because they think CDC, WHO is God. So I should not question them. I should just go on following whatever they tell me. So that is what is happening. Here we have a guy. He's sitting here. His name is Joel R. Kalman. We have a COVID app in India. All of you know we have a COVID app. You have to register yourself, whether you're vaxxed or unvaxxed. It has a recording. This guy has made the VSafe app in the US. VSafe, that is the vaccine safety app. And he went on Twitter and he said, I've taken the first dose. And he went on telling people, all of you register under the VSafe app. And so that we can have a record of the American population that has taken the vaccine first dose, second dose, when it is due and everything. And by the time he took his second dose, he died. He's out of the game now, totally. And the VSafe app, now Mr. Biden says that is the most, what does he say? Mr. Biden says it is the most perfectly safe vaccine. That is what he says. And we have a lot of things. We have a French, we have a German guy called Vanden Bosch. He's written a proper article saying vaccinating kids is not dumb, it is insane. It is insane. Because children have very good immunity, and we're already through 2.5 years in the COVID scenario. When it came the first time, it should have hit the children. It didn't hit. The first wave came, the second wave came, the Omicron wave came, children escaped. And today, because your vaccine is ready, you are saying that the children will get infected and I have to give the 15 to 18 and 12 to 15 and 7 to 12, and you go on with that narrative. Why are people not questioning? Why do you want to take everything down like a pill that is going to give you everything? Why are you not asking questions? Ask. and you shall receive the answers, definitely. Don't just go ahead with, see what is happening. How do you think KK died? His postmortem shows lot of clots in all his arteries. Puneet Rajkumar, who was a Kannada actor, he went while exercising. Nobody did a postmortem. They just closed it. People are just youngsters, like Dr. Praveen was saying, 1,200 athletes have died. How many postmortems have done? All of us know if there's a sudden death within 24 hours, it's a medical legal case. Postmortem has to be done and cause of death has to be confirmed. But they don't do it. They just close it. And when the side effects happen, it's the corporate hospitals are getting more patients, so they just treat the patients and they go on treating and they don't want to link it to the vaccine. Nobody wants to link the side effects that have happened to the vaccine that they have given. So this is a huge thing. I think we as a enlightened population, we have to go around, educate people, tell them to ask questions, read between the lines, go and do your own Googling and searching. You Google for all sorts of silly things. Why don't you Google when there's a matter of life and death in your hands? Google, find out what is happening and, go through the whole thing. And I would advise people to take care of their further generation, build your own immunity, don't fall for these gimmicks. These vaccines and the diseases will keep coming as long as the money flows. And you should answer one question. Who has benefited from this whole pandemic? Is it you or is it somebody else? If it is somebody else, then you have helped him do it. If you have benefited, then I don't have anything to say. Thank you. All the best.
Yeah, we have some speakers out there. And we have Justice Narayana with us now. Nilesh Oja ji, I would request you, Nilesh Oja, sir, we know you for a long time. And somewhere, if you can just throw some light on what are the things, because we would like to involve not just medical community and other sectors. We hopeful that this particular legal thing is going to be an important thing, because we have tried enough politicians. We spoke to so many people. They just talk and they from one year it goes from the other year. And Nilesh Oja ji, it's all yours, sir.
The success of our battle against this mafia is more dependent. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
So, the success is more depending upon the research stand view by the honest doctors and researchers, not only in India, but also across the world. And as Dr. Amitabh Banerjee is here, his article and his viewpoints were produced before the court. It helped us a lot, and it was it gave us a line of action, and it was very much effective for comparing between the suggestion given by the task force members and also what is the real science. So all the participants, they may be doctors, they may be scientists, they may be IITians, are doing their job well. Their efforts are very much helpful for us. And what I would like to suggest is that the people should the people be made more aware about their question raising capacity. Means they should learn to raise questions for each nonsense mandates or anything which is unlawful. And for that purpose, I always keep on telling that whatever the law is not so much rigid. Law is very simple. It can be summarized that whatever hits the common sense is illegal in the eyes of law. So now it is the job of the advocates to bring that illegality in the four corners of the penal provisions or any legal provisions. That is being done very well by many advocates, and there is a need that much more advocates should join this mission. And as the Supreme Court judgment and many High Court judgment had proved that the government and these task force members many that bogus task force members, those who are not having proper knowledge, or those who are sponsored or motivated by their ulterior purposes or sponsors, they are not able to produce any evidence in support of their nonsense mandates. That's why whenever there is a good judge, good court, judicious court, then their mandates, their all circulars, directions were quashed by the court. We may take the example of Guwahati High Court, Meghalaya High Court, Bombay High Court, and Supreme Court of India. So together, all the doctors, advocates, and mostly the common man can form a big force which can defeat this mafia, and they can be sent to their right place, that is jail. This is the summary of our all fights.
So one thing, the latest Delhi High Court order on no masks by those who are flying. How can a
Yes.
court intervene and ask Director Control, Civil Aviation, to issue such orders? From where did they get that information that COVID-19 is still prevalent or it is spreading fast? Is there any scientific evidence? Are there any hospitalizations in Delhi itself? Kisan Andolan took place for 1 year. Neither Supreme Court nor Delhi High Court takes cognizance of that. Was there any COVID appropriate behavior? Did they wear masks? Was there any physical distance? Did they take vaccination? In the peak, many were dying in Delhi, they were shown. But how many of them died? How many of them got affected? How many of them were hospitalized during Kisan Andolan? Even for that matter, now during this phase, lakhs of people participated in election, IPL matches in your own Mumbai city and everywhere. And also, at the stroke of the federal judge of America, very clearly stating there is no need for any mask for transport. And also another judge, federal judge, clearly made Pfizer to reveal the after effects. How dangerous, how fatal these after effects of the vaccines were. How is that these are not being taken into cognizance anywhere? And surprisingly, even we are hearing that Maharashtra again is trying to impose the mandates. Your audio, sir. Your audio, sir.
Yes, now audible.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
First, I will explain the illegality in the Delhi High Court judgment. Delhi High Court judgment is illegal on 2 points. First, the cognizance of that case was taken by the single judge of the High Court. So it was the suo motu cognizance, and it is again the Constitution Bench guideline of the Supreme Court in common cause case. So I will cite that. There are many judgments, but that is one judgment, campaign for judicial accountability and others. In that case, the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court clearly said that only Chief Justice is the master of the roster, and only Chief Justice can take the suo motu cognizance. If any other judge on its own exercises the power of the Chief Justice and takes the suo motu cognizance of any case, then such order, such proceeding does not hold the field. It is void ab initio, illegal and null and void. Therefore, that direction is itself illegal and it is contempt of the Supreme Court's guidelines. One thing. Second thing, now coming to the point. To issue any guidelines is not the jurisdiction of the High Court or the Supreme Court when they can issue guidelines when there is a statutory gap and when there is a argument, this party, opposite party, all parties are heard, and based on that, like in Vishaka guidelines or the DK Basu's guideline, in that case, for protecting the fundamental rights of the citizen, court can issue guideline. But here, the judge, without there being any scientific evidence on record, without, and it is also in Jacob Pulel case and in Satinov decision, court made it clear that judges are not the experts. So it is none the job of the judge to pass the guidelines which are having the effect of violating the fundamental rights of the citizen, one thing. Second thing, which is contrary to the scientific evidence available on record. When the central government is saying that Disaster Management Act should not be applied, henceforth, one thing. Second thing, the written information given by the ICMR, Health Ministry, and other scientific proofs, peer-reviewed studies make it very clear that the mask does not protect from the infection. One thing. There is no scientific evidence, and they say that healthy people should not wear the mask. These are the guidelines by the central government. And second thing, RTR are available. ICMR say that they are having no evidence to show that mask prevent the infection. One thing. Second thing, all the renowned journals and the peer-reviewed studies, means the summary of that study is that mask gives rise to many side effects, such as decreasing the level of the oxygen, which ultimately decreases your immunity to fight against the corona and many diseases, damage of lungs, and many such side effects, even that may cause death. Now, the order of the Delhi High Court judge is a blanket order. Those who don't wear the mask in aeroplane should not be allowed to travel. So what if a person with health problems like asthma or others, he was forced to wear the mask, and if he dies, then section 52 of IPC says nothing can be said to be done in good faith if it is not done with due care and caution. Before the High Court, there was no scientific evidence, there was no discussion on this point, and there was no reason for the judge to pass such order. So that order is illegal, and if anything happens wrong to any person, then I am of the view that the said judge should be held personally responsible for any death or any casualty, and for that purpose, there is specific provision in the IPC, and even a common man can apply before the President of India for getting permission to prosecute such judges.
But meanwhile, that fear psychosis is just going to envelop, and everyone who is traveling to the airport now will be forced to mandate.
Yes.
And how can are you planning to contest this? Because he is an acting Chief Justice, as you rightly said.
Yes.
And another point, whether it is Supreme Court or High Court or anyone, without divulging whether they have isolated the virus, whether RT-PCR tests are 100% sure to explore the virus possibility, and what does this remdesivir or other treatment patterns contain in them? And also, vaccines they were discussing. Did anyone reveal what does a vaccine contain? And that RTI showed Covaxin contains cow calf blood, the other vaccine contains chimpanzee cells, the other one dead fetal cells. These are, I'm telling you only this thing. Maybe there are more dangerous, alumina, graphene oxide. Without understanding what the contents are in the vaccine or in the treatment in the form of remdesivir or for that virus, whether the virus was isolated or not, how can courts indulge in a trial? And that too, investing public money, my money, and creating fear for me so that my life is endangered, my health is endangered. I am forced mandates upon myself.
Hello.
Yes, sir, I have done. I have completed.
हाँ, ओके ओके शायद मेरे ख्याल से डॉक्टर साहब कुछ कह रहे हैं.
सुनाई नहीं दिया सर.
हाँ एक मिनट. हाँ, so first thing, Supreme either Supreme Court or High Court have not asked anyone in the order that they may be forcefully vaccinated or not. Actually, earlier there is one Justice Chandrachud judgment regarding the person with mental disability that the hospital staff may be vaccinated. That is a different thing. But in writing, in Jacob Pulel's case, everything is clear. Right to refuse vaccine is fundamental right under Article 21 of each citizen. That issue is clear, one thing. Regarding second thing, that remdesivir and others, it is none the job of the court, and the judges who had taken the extrajudicial jurisdiction to themselves committed illegality. That is wrong. However, at that time, the pharma mafia's propaganda was so high, so means the pressure was so high, and media and everything. So, and our group was at that time not in such a position, or we were just preparing or means हम हमारे हथियार वगैरह जमा कर रहे थे, वेपन्स वगैरह हम जमा कर रहे थे. So we were means late. So at that time they have done much damage, but now we are means much prepared, and a considerable defeat has been given to them. So regarding remdesivir or anything else, so I am of the view that there need a sincere persuasion of the prosecution of these bureaucrats and the pharma mafias. We have filed, at present there are 3 major cases pending. One is against Bill Gates for vaccine murder case by Hitesh Kadre. Another is vaccine murder case by Dr. Snehal Luna's parents. And third is that vaccine murder case at Kerala High Court by Noah Sabu's parents. So people have demanded hundreds of crore compensation also, and prosecution under the charges of murder 302 and others, death penalty charges. So these are pending. If we pursue it means with due diligence, then there is means chance that this mafia will not dare to commit similar wrongs, and few judges who are means taking jurisdiction to themselves and considering that they are above all the doctors and all researchers, and whatever said by the pharma mafia is correct. So they will think 1,000 times, because even if judge commits mistake, even if any person dies because of the mistake of the judge, then judge is also responsible as per the section 120B of IBC. There is Raman Lal specific judgment is there. So judge can also be prosecuted for the death penalty. That is not no problem yet. So only problem is in the mindset of the public. They have trained us that no, judge cannot be prosecuted. Who said the specific provisions are there? I myself have written the book on how to prosecute judges. All the procedure, all the case laws are mentioned there.
Wonderful.
You can visit the website of Indian Bar Association. Book is already there.
Wonderful.
So I think there is no problem. Some judges committed mistake. We can miss. Actually, we are overburdened, but we will try. When people make aware, we are just miss. जिसको क्या बोलते हैं? Foundation बना रहे. Foundation बना रहे. And one by one, जिसका जैसा time आएगा, then definitely sooner or late they should be punished.
Thank you, Nilesh ji. Thanks a lot. And I would like to invite Rachna ji here. And she lost her daughter Ritika during, it was a proved case of VITT, vaccine-induced thrombocytic, the thrombotic thrombocytopenia. Rachna garu, please come and try to share your, this one. This one.
Thank you, Dr. Saxena. Thank you for having me. Before I can say anything, I'd like to thank Dr. Veena, because I would agree to each and every single word that you have said. Your analogy about we humans are not on an assembly line. They are not products of the same type. My daughter definitely didn't fit into that same type. She's a perfect example that we're all very different. I don't know how or where to start. I would like to start by saying that it's been exactly a year of suffering today. June 4th of last year is when my suffering was started. My 18-year-old daughter, Ritika, was just a very active young child with absolutely no health problems, became a victim of the Covishield vaccine. I was just like many others who were under the fear of the COVID-19 and was under the umbrella that only vaccine could save our lives. Unfortunately, I learned the lesson very hard way. Our entire family has learned it the very, very hard way. Within less than a week of her getting vaccinated with the Covishield vaccine, she started getting symptoms of mild headaches, numbness in her fingertips, that eventually were symptoms of a brain stroke that we didn't know. I didn't even have the knowledge that such a young child could get a brain stroke. Within the next 4 days, she ended up in the hospital getting a craniectomy for the massive brain hemorrhage that she had. And 4 days afterwards, she was declared brain dead. And 4 days further, we had to bid her farewell. Since then, my fight for justice has been going on. I try to advocate other parents that do not trust the vaccine, trust your natural immunity. Do not make the mistake that we have made. But as you rightly said, only when it comes from the CDC or the WHO is when people are ready to hear. Even when I have the proof from the government, where they have, the Ministry of Health has declared that her case was investigated, and it was declared that her death was a direct vaccine-related death. Even then, when I show them that proof, they then still consider that it's one in several thousands, which is not true. We personally, along with the Awaken India movement, my friends over here, we personally have known many, many such cases. Deaths in young children have been happening more commonly now than ever before. And I still don't seem to understand why parents can't wake up. We've been seeing many heart attacks, cases of like the eminent figures like KK or Punit Rajkumar and other athletes who've been just dropping dead. Still people think that it's just coincidence. The new trend has been stress, post-pandemic stress, where people have been living indoors. They all link it to that, but they still cannot link that it's the vaccine which is doing it. So many such forums and meetings are needed to awaken the people. We are trying what we can. And apart from that, after Ritaika's passing, we have also tried to go to the Supreme Court with a PIL asking for informed consent before getting the vaccine. The parents or anybody, any recipient should be notified about the possible side effects. But things have been sitting where they are. It's almost been a year since we've lost our daughter, and it's been 7 months since we've filed PIL, but things are still the same. We need answers. We all need answers. Young lives being lost, healthy people getting sick. It's time to wake up, people. Thank you.
I think we had heard her so many times, and it's really the kind of passion. I spoke to Pawan, he was in US, and you are also have a short time and you are leaving for US, but thanks for coming all the way here. And we'd like to listen from Chakrapani ji, as well as Justice Narayana, Ram sir, and other panelists, because we, yeah, huh? Who? Yeah, I'll just come to that. I think before that we'll just take, there are some people are coming kind of stuff. And I'd like to introduce you to Amitabh Banerjee, and he spoke he wrote such excellent articles. Sir, unfortunately all that's done in Deccan Herald and all that. And he has compared this particular thing to such an easy way he tries to convey to the people, and he has become he comes regular on the TV shows and all that. Amitabh Banerjee, I don't have to tell about him. He's the like Amitabh Bachchan of this movement actually. Amitabh sir, it's all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Saxena, for those kind words. I wouldn't like to be compared with Amitabh Bachchan because he had been promoting COVID-appropriate behavior. And he was so anyway, I am happy where I am, and thank you so much. And I was just tell the people, very simple way. Actually, everybody presented before me, and we just connect the dots. Like Professor Bhaskar Raman said that the case fatality, or rather the infection fatality, is just 0.1% in India. Of course, 0.27% globally, including the Western countries. They have got an older population and they have got obesity. So worldwide, the infection fatality is 0.27%, but still the public perception is that it's a lethal disease. And in India, we have calculated ourselves, as Professor Raman himself has calculated at Dharavi or in Mumbai. He got a figure of 0.05. We have done studies ourselves, we have published it. We have got infection fatality in Indian population at 0.07. And anyway, at least it is, we can go with a working year of 0.1%. That is across all age groups. And if you take children, healthy children, the infection fatality is one child dies in 1 million infections. And that one child may be having some comorbidity. Hardly any reported case of a healthy child dying. So when we consider vaccination, suppose to make the common person understand, अगर 10% mortality है कोई disease का, 20% है, जैसे smallpox का 30% था, उसके लिए we can take a chance with the side effect of vaccine. Like somebody said, some speaker said, I think Dr. Veena, she said that the parents ask कि वे सभी वैक्सीन का तो साइड इफेक्ट होता है, तो इसमें क्या खास है? ये खास ये है कि दूसरे जो बीमारी है, अदर इवन मीजल्स इन अ चाइल्ड कैन बी हैविंग 5-10% mortality. Tuberculosis has 20% higher mortality, and that vaccine also doesn't work, but it doesn't harm also. We don't give repeated boosters, we don't get repeated because it doesn't work, we have given up. But this vaccine also doesn't work, but we continue giving it, and a new vaccine. So if the disease has a 10%, 20% mortality, worth taking a chance. But with an unknown vaccine, where the mortality is in children, it is 0.0001 mortality. And why give vaccine to children? We do not know the long-term effect. That is one thing. Second thing is that what mass vaccination having at a population level. So I would just like to share the screen. I had written this editorial about a month back, asking people in the editorial also to make their own conclusion. I have put it in public domain asking any counter view, yet I have not received answer. So I will just share the screen with you, and just a minute. Do I have a share screen option? I think I have got. Okay, I am sharing the screen. Can you see the screen? Is the screen shared?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You can make it full screen. You can make it full screen.
It is coming.
So this is actually I have just compared some countries where the vaccine was rolled out. Later half of 2019, the COVID started. Then end of 2020, we started the vaccination, mass vaccination. UK, I think, was the first country. And most of the countries started in the first half of 2021. And after 1 year, I have just tried to compare what have been the incidents and deaths in few selected countries. In fact, there is a paper that they have done comparison like this in 68 countries. They did not find the correlation with the vaccine rollout percentage, vaccination coverage, and disease and deaths in 68 countries and almost 3,000 American counties. There was no correlation. So I have just projected few countries. So this is Japan. I am starting with Japan. Why? Because if I present that after vaccination cases increased in some other country, they will say that after vaccination people came out, they will try to explain. But because of lockdown and other things, but Japan, I starting with Japan because Japan never had a lockdown. So people cannot give that excuse that Japan people they did not have a lockdown. So what was the in Japan? This is the rate of this is the Japan. If you see, I was also following Japan very keenly because Japan is a very interesting case. Most of the cases with higher age group are having very high mortality per million from COVID, particularly the Western countries. Japan has got an age structure which is much older than the Western countries. Still, it had the very low mortality. In fact, it was having low mortality than India also. And then other thing I compared was Japan was having very low obesity rate. This obesity was 1/3 the Western countries. So obesity came out, perhaps that gives you a better health, lack of obesity, better immunity, perhaps that was preventing. Then vaccine was rolled out in Japan somewhere in March. This is the red circle when the vaccine was rolled out. If you see after that, before vaccine cases were very low. After vaccine cases started and then there was a peak also. This is the cases. Then the other explanation is that, okay, you are getting cases, but there is no death. Vaccine protects against hospitalization and deaths. So if you see the death, this is the death in Japan, and the vaccination coverage is almost 80% in Japan. And the vaccine started, before vaccine there was a peak of deaths. After vaccine there was an equally good peak of death. Subsequently, now it is having a very high peak of death. I mean, that was in February. This data is about 2 months old, this editorial I published. But the trend now also continues. It is having much higher deaths than it had pre-vaccination. This is Japan. Now we come to some other country. This is USA. Let us see USA. USA, if you see, vaccine was rolled out January 22. Before the vaccine, these were the trends, incidence of cases. After that, peak naturally also because people develop herd immunity, it comes back. But after the vaccination also, we had now perhaps the impact of the vaccination is waning. They say it doesn't last more than 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So that's why they are saying booster. How long you can, and the highest peak is more than pre-vaccination period. This is the cases, and similarly, if you see after the vaccine rollout, the deaths increased. And it came down because all the vulnerable, they succumb and there is herd immunity, but again, it's showing a rising trend. So it is back to pre-vaccination period. USA, this is now UK. UK was the first country to start the vaccination. So this is, if you see, before the vaccination cases were less, after the vaccination, it was the first country there was a peak. These are the incidents, and now they are very high. And even if you see after the vaccination, the peak of deaths in UK was higher than the pre-vaccination peak. You expect you roll out mass vaccination, and vaccination coverage is more than 70%. And the peak is so high after vaccination, and then of course, as people, even whatever they come, and again it is coming up. Of course, natural immunity, and Singapore is a very interesting case, as we all know. Singapore has almost 100% vaccination, and before the vaccination, the control of Singapore was very good. Probably that is another factor, because very good quarantine, very good, it does not develop baseline immunity. So those, even in India, we saw Kerala, initially success story Kerala, but subsequently Kerala lagged behind and there were very high case surge. Now, similarly, this same phenomena, if you see, is happening in Taiwan. Taiwan immediately when China, it came out in Taiwan hardly had any cases, everybody praised Taiwan. But if you see today, Taiwan, they are having very high deaths. They are a very small country, just 2 crore people, we are 140 crores, but as on today, Taiwan with almost 100% vaccination are having 20 times, 30 times more deaths than India. Absolute number of deaths, 60, 70 deaths they are having daily. We are having just 10 or 20 or 30 deaths. So Taiwan is having almost, so this doesn't work actually. The quarantine and all kept the country susceptible, broke down the immunity, and the vaccination, with 100% vaccination, Taiwan is having problem. Singapore, we were talking of Singapore, I think. So this is USA, this is UK, this is Singapore. This is Singapore. If you see, Singapore did very well. In the beginning, everybody praised, and they rolled out the vaccine. After the vaccine, after a gap of 6 months, if you see the cases starting and even deaths are starting. If you see before vaccine, they didn't have any deaths. After vaccine, I mean, the idea is at a public health policy level, one should ask the governments, one should ask the policymakers, one should ask the vaccine companies. This is taken from the public domain. All this data has been compiled from Worldometer and Vaccine Tracker. I will give the reference. So this is the public domain. This can be understood by a high school student. Before vaccine, there were no cases and deaths in Singapore. These small countries are the actually trial. And why we are having now and why we are having in Singapore. Malaysia, similarly, this Southeast Asia regions gives a very good year. Malaysia also I have been following, very less cases before vaccination. This is the Malaysia vaccine was rolled out February. Hardly any cases. After the vaccine, you see the instability. Similarly, deaths, all the major bulk of deaths post-vaccination in Malaysia. This I have published this paper. This paper is also in the public domain. Anybody can challenge it. I have been asking. Israel, again, a very good example, because everybody praised Israel with its vaccine rollout. So Israel, if you see before vaccine and after vaccine, this red area, and deaths also, it peaked. This is data is up to February, but the same trend can follow, but people can ask explanation for this. This is Indonesia. Indonesia, again the same picture. Multiple peaks post-vaccination, deaths before vaccination, after vaccination. Somehow I am seeing the Asian countries are having this phenomena much more than the Western countries. So there may be certain racial disparity, ethnic or some other coronaviruses or whatever. It is something which requires scientific study rather than mass vaccination, booster vaccination, which will destroy all the evidence. This is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, again, very, very good example, because Sri Lanka was having very low cases. I was following Sri Lanka very closely because it is next to India. So if you see, hardly had any cases pre-vaccination, and after vaccination, cases also increased Sri Lanka and deaths also increased. And now it has gone bankrupt also. So this realization, again, there is a paper that CDC Atlanta reported increase of 0.01% to 9% in hospitalization and from 0 to 15% in deaths between January and May 2021 among the fully vaccinated. I don't know, this data is there. I have given the reference. Paper is published, but still the public mind and the propaganda is that firstly vaccine prevents infection. Now they have said, okay, it doesn't prevent infection, because they are seeing that people who have taken vaccine and they are getting. So they say they prevent death. The person who have died has gone up. Dead men tell no tales, they used to say. So they are giving that, but the data is not showing that. Data is not supporting that. And this is a study I was saying, unrelated levels of 68 countries and here. So this is, these are the references. This is the worldometer. This data I have taken from worldometer, the cases and deaths. Then our COVID vaccination tracker is there. Then this is a paper, increase in COVID-19 unrelated. This is published in the European Journal of Epidemiology. And this is my paper which I had published in the medical journal Levi Patel, which is from which I have taken these, some countries I have taken. So this is all I have.
2 मिनट हिंदी में भी बोलिए अमिताभ बनर्जी, 2 मिनट हिंदी में समरी, थोड़ा हिंदी में 2 मिनट, ये रेफरेंसेस ऐसे लगाते हुए बोलिए।
हमने कुछ देशों का बताया कि जो वर्ल्डोमीटर का डेटा है और वैक्सीन कब स्टार्ट किया। आपने देखा कि जो हमने डेटा बताया, हमने जापान से स्टार्ट किया कि वैक्सीन स्टार्ट होने, मास वैक्सीनेशन रोल आउट के पहले देखे, आपने ग्राफ देखे, उसमें केसेस भी कम हो रहे थे और सेकेंड ग्राफ में डेथ भी कम हो रहे। और कंपेयर टू वैक्सीन देने के बाद, अभी हम जल्दी अगर दिखा दे, ये हमने चलो आखिरी से हम बताए, ये जैसे ये लाल में जो सर्कल है, ये वैक्सीन चालू किया, तो ये डेटा है श्रीलंका का। इसके पहले देखिएगा कोई केसेस कम थे और देने के बाद ये आगे वाले मंथ से अगस्त सितंबर अक्टूबर में पीक हो गया। ये डेथ्स का है, ये श्रीलंका का है, ये आपका इंडोनेशिया का है। वैक्सीन देने के पहले देखिएगा जो मंथली केसेस हो रहे थे, ये वर्ल्डोमीटर का डेटा है वहाँ, और वैक्सीन देने के बाद कम होना चाहिए ना पॉपुलेशन लेवल में, तो ये देखिए ज़्यादा है, डेथ भी ज़्यादा है। ये इंडोनेशिया का था, ये इजराइल का था। इजराइल में देखिए वैक्सीन यहाँ रोल आउट किया, 100% वैक्सीन 80% को दे दिया, उसके बाद भी केसेस हो गए। वैक्सीन के पहले एक साल ये पहले वैक्सीन का है, 1 साल वैक्सीन के बाद का है। ये डेथ भी कम थे और डेथ भी ज़्यादा हुए। तो ऐसे कई कंट्री, पर्टिकुलरली ये एशियन कंट्रीज में ज़्यादा ये फिनोमेना दिख रहा है। ये मलेशिया का है। मलेशिया में आप देखिए वैक्सीन देने के पहले ये थे पिछले साल, वैक्सीन देने के बाद वाले साल में देखिए ये केसेस ऐसे, और ये देखिए डेथ भी ऐसे हो रहे हैं। ये केसेस है, ये डेथ है। कहते हैं ना केसेस हो गए, ठीक है, हम डेथ प्रिवेंट कर रहे हैं। तो जो डेटा बता रहा है पॉपुलेशन लेवल में, वो डेथ भी प्रिवेंट नहीं दिखा रहा है। 3 महीने 6 महीने बाद सब बराबर हो रहा है, बल्कि पहले से ज़्यादा हो रहा है। 2 चीज़ देखना है, खाली प्रिवेंट नहीं कर रहा है और वैक्सीन के पहले से ज़्यादा हो रहा है। तो ये क्या हो रहा है? आई मीन दिस रिक्वायर्स इन्वेस्टिगेशन। ये सिंगापुर का है। सिंगापुर में देखिए केसेस पहले वैक्सीन देने के पहले कुछ नहीं था, डेथ्स भी नहीं था, क्योंकि छोटा कंट्री है, 1 करोड़ पॉपुलेशन है। अभी देखिए वैक्सीन देने के बाद डेथ भी हो रहे हैं, ये भी हो रहे हैं। तो ये सवाल ये पूछना है कि भाई ये क्या हो रहा है कि पॉपुलेशन लेवल में तो ऐसा हो रहा है। तो दिस शुड बी आस्क्ड सिंपल क्वेश्चन बाय एनी। दिस इज इसका यूके का है। यूके का देखिए ये पहले के केसेस हैं और ये बाद के हैं, और ये डेथ भी देखिएगा वैक्सीन के बाद भी वैसे ही है। मतलब पहले और बाद में क्या फ़र्क हुआ। और आप इसके बाद भी आप बूस्टर दे रहे हैं, आप बच्चे को भी लगा रहे हो, जब आपका पॉपुलेशन लेवल में रिजल्ट नहीं शो कर रहा है। हमने तो अभी साइड इफेक्ट की बात करना बंद ही कर दिया। हम कहते हैं कि इतना खर्चा हो रहा है, हर इंसान को वैक्सीन दे रहे हो, 5 साल के बच्चे तक को दे रहे हो, कॉस्ट कितना लगेगा, हेल्थ बजट से जाएगा। ये भी एक साइड इफेक्ट है कि यू आर पुअर हो जाएगा कंट्री, कितना कॉस्ट है, और बूस्टर के ऊपर बूस्टर लगाए जा रहे हो। ये देखिएगा, ये यूएसए का है। यूएसए का पहले थे और बाद में, मतलब इधर 1 साल पहले और 1 साल वैक्सीन के बाद इतना रोल आउट हो गया, हमसे ज़्यादा कवरेज है उनका। अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज में कोई डेथ नहीं है, कोई वैक्सीनेशन कवरेज भी है, डेथ भी नहीं है। ये जापान का है। जापान का बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल है। देखिए पहले कुछ नहीं हो रहा था, कुछ डेथ्स हुए थे, एल्डरली पॉपुलेशन है जापान में, फिर भी वैक्सीन के बाद भी इससे भी ज़्यादा हुए, ये इससे भी ज़्यादा हुए। हमने बहुत, मैं शुरू से बहुत फॉलो कर रहा है, मेरे को ये ट्रेंड लग रहा है, फिर मेरे को लग रहा है कि ये क्या हो रहा है। तो दिस इज, ये मेरे को ये करना था। मैंने पेपर अपना दिया है, उसमें मिलेगा आपको, ऑनलाइन आप सर्च करेंगे कोविड-19 वैक्सीनेशन मास रोल आउट व्हाट इम्पैक्ट पॉपुलेशन लेवल, और यूएचओ का हमारा वेबसाइट है। हमने जो किताब लिखा है वो वेबसाइट में भी सॉफ्ट कॉपी है, आप ऑर्डर भी कर सकते हैं अमेजोन से अगर आपको पढ़ना है। सॉफ्ट कॉपी है, पतला किताब है, ज़्यादा 107 पेजेस का है। सो थैंक यू एवरीवन फॉर गिविंग मी दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी।
Yeah. Abhitav sir, it was a real thing, or I wish Chakrapani ji has something. See, you are always the policymakers, and seeing this data, what you have to say, sir? Any kind of your reactions? Chakrapani ji served as a chief secretary to the United AP government before, and he is still into a lot of policy making and all that, and he still enjoys giving a talks to a lot of students and all that. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being a part with us.
Thank you, Dr. Praveen Saxena, and I'm very happy that a lot of very committed professionals who studied this vaccine rollout, the trend of COVID, have participated in this program. In the first instance, my very deep condolences to Dr. Rachana, who lost a very bright young girl as a result of probably the adverse effects of vaccine. I'm very, very sorry to hear of that. And I do wish that such a thing doesn't happen. It's also important to note the manner in which COVID pandemic has engulfed humanity over a period of last 2 years. All of us function according to the knowledge database available at a point of time. It's very easy to come to conclusions on the basis of what has happened at that point of time, much later, and that there's absolutely no doubt that there's a lot of need for transparency in providing data. I fully agree with the view of the professionals who made such impassioned plea during the course of this presentation. Data should be presented, it should be made transparent, it should be made available particularly to all those who are seeking in different parts of the world. On that there is no dispute. We should also understand that at any point of time, the governments, the policy makers, the administrators take decisions on the basis of whatever data has been made available to them at that point of time. All of us passed through that very tense phase of waves of COVID when people were dying. A lot of people whom we have known were dying, both in hospitals and outside. Governments were under tremendous pressure all over the world, not only in this country, all over the world. It's not as if that we had the luxury of years of rollout or years of experimentation. A lot of firefighting had to take place at that point of time. I think professionals would agree that this was one of the most intense phases of history. And all of you, I think, you are aware of the fact that the Spanish flu took a toll of almost anywhere between 6 to 10 crores of people when the population of the world was about 190 crores. And the population of the world, as you know, is about 780 crores. And probably we have had about 25 to 30 crores of people affected by COVID and about 63, 64 lakhs dying officially. Maybe there could be different estimates. The point I'm trying to submit for the consideration of the professionals is it is not possible for governments to keep quiet when the house is on fire. I think this should be realized. You have to make all kinds of efforts to handle the situation as it emerges. And the data, the professionals in this country and everywhere, all of them unanimously supported the rollout of vaccines. I think it should be very clear. All the institutions of the world that are charged with the responsibility of taking decisions have more or less in one voice recommended the rollout of vaccine at that point of time. We can certainly take a different perspective, as rightly pointed out about children, whether it is needed or not. At this point of time, Dr. Praveen Saxena made a very impassioned plea. So in a democratic setup, the rulers, the policy makers, if they had made decisions contrary to the professional advice or scientific advice or epidemiological advice, yes, certainly you could find fault with them. Are there instances like that in most countries? Not to my knowledge. Hence, whether it is inadequate, whether it has had adverse events, unfortunately, there are people who passed away. So at a point of time, if you looked at the options available to the policy makers, I think the options were very few. The manner in which the whole governments were being reviewed on a day-to-day basis by the press, by the media, by the judiciary, by the people in various legislative fora, I do not think anything better would have happened given the cumulative knowledge available at that point of time. I think that should be understood very clear. The entire scientific body of this world supported the rollout of vaccines at that point of time. Now that we have the data, now that we have the luxury of seeing people being affected in large numbers coming out of it. US today, even today, has about 1 lakh of cases. I just was seeing the figures. Even today, there are 1 lakh cases, but then those who are dying are about maybe 300 per day. You have this country has about maybe about 2,000, 3,000 cases per day. The active cases maybe are about 20,000, slightly on the increase in the last 1 week. Now we have some time available, some luxury of decision making, professional judgment being put in public fora, the data being made available. I fully agree. And I would like to compliment the scientific bodies of all over the world that the kind of cooperation that was seen in vaccine rollout, vaccine manufacture, data sharing, technology assimilation, political decision making among different bodies has been of a very high order. It was not available. When we had a population of 190 crores in 1918, 2000, 1920, there were no flights. Today you have about 1 lakh flights where 80 lakhs, 50 to 80 lakhs of people travel. And they're spreading the disease. All that you had at the time of the Spanish flu was maybe a few ships. With about 1 lakh flights, 50 to 80 lakhs of people traveling, I do not think that you could expect the governments to sit back, relax and say, I'll take a decision after 10 years of vaccine trials. I think this should be understood very clearly. I am convinced that the humanity, the scientific community, the political leaders, the administrators, by and large, there could be fools like Bolsonaro in Brazil, who refused to acknowledge COVID for a very long time. Barring these exceptions, the political, the administrative, the scientific leaders have, I think, given their best in rolling out a vaccine. There are certainly adverse events. There are certainly people who are unfortunately who lost their near and dear ones. It's a very tragic matter. I fully agree that data has to be put in public domain. The choices should be given. But I don't think vaccine was made mandatory, at least in this country, at a point of time. The choices were open. If you are entering or occupying public space, if you are in public space, you certainly had to have some kind of a socially acceptable behavior at that point of time. That's all was made mandatory. If you are traveling, if you are going from one place to another, if you are occupying public places, certainly vaccination was insisted. But otherwise, vaccine was not mandatory for anybody, isn't it? I don't think it was mandatory for anybody. Government jobs, let me complete, ma'am. I understand your anxiety and pain, but I think what are facts will have to be stated as facts. At that point of time, the cumulative decision, the cumulative knowledge available to the political and the administrative structures was that this is the best course of action given these parameters. There were high-level bodies set up in this country and elsewhere. Hence, my own request to you is, yes, I am one with all of you that the data should be in public domain, and that there is no doubt. At every stage, institutions, administrators, politicians have the responsibility to the society to put data in public domain. Let people make a judgment, informed decision making. But then, you now are reaching a stage where you can come to a conclusion whether what modifications are needed, what further steps are to be taken, and I think we should be guided by these kinds of fora where you have very informed decision making, whether or not children should be given vaccine. What is the incidence of serious ailment, hospitalization, mortality among children of what age groups? What are the effects of vaccines on people who are perhaps not equipped with enough immunity? What kinds of variations would be possible? That's all I would like to urge, and I'm very happy that I've been invited to this forum and address all of you, and I would like to thank Dr. Praveen Saxena for this. Thank you.
Sir, I would like to add one thing, Chakrapani garu. 1 second, Saxena ji. Only one thing.
Shiprasad, we'll take up later. I would like to open up.
Only 1 second. I'll not take much. 1 second, because Saxena ji, Dr. Chakrapani garu, the first doctor from CDC is epidemiologist. He flew from US right into my show, Midday Politics on Sneha TV, and he very clearly stated that this infection is very mild and it doesn't spread except in the closed air-conditioned malls, and the cough etiquettes and physical and including the lung specialist, I call them, and even his own colleague flew from UK. When we made this on February 11, 2020, both the states made a mockery, and he clearly stated, for this you don't need a vaccine. Vaccine nearly takes more than 10 years, and then he said very clearly, the fatality rate is so low that you just adopt these methods so that you will have herd immunity setting into your community and there is no need to panic. And believe me, after that, I was asked to stop my Midday Politics show. And I'm putting it to you because on record, I'm telling you, right from the day one, I have been writing it to Supreme Court, President of India, Prime Minister of India, ICMR, all chief ministers, all political parties, it is on record. Can a prevention or a treatment be more harmful and dangerous than the original disease itself? And is it not a fundamental right of myself to understand why these mandates and how serious this COVID-19 is, and what is the treatment being given, and what does remdesivir contain, and what does these vaccines contain? So many people have died in Gandhi Hospital, in Chest Hospital. I have documented, I have made this show. I said this is their death wish. No one probed till now, except the other side of it. So this is what I am trying to correct. Right from the day one, the data is there, professionals were there, and we have pulled in data, and we have even exposed it in April 7, 2020, World Health Day itself, how all these things are being managed. And this is not science. When it pertains to health, it should be given to individual to decide.
What's your question? What's your question, sir?
My question was simple.
What is your question at this point of time?
As you were stating that the government in a democratic form would have taken a decision and it was correct. No, sir. I'm very sorry to say that. I disagree with you. That part of time, there was a lot of information.
See,
in 2020, I'm talking, February 11, 2020, I'm talking. We made all this data very clear on that day itself, sir. From a doctor from CDC is still working in Hyderabad in an Indian Institute of Public Health.
it's open for in a scientific forum. It's always open that there will be different perspectives. Certainly, I mean, I'm not denying that.
She
Dr.
has
Rachana.
something.
People have to.
Why have they resumed? No, why have they resumed? Why have they resumed? You see, I on that. I Madam, I fully agree with you that it should be an informed consent. I am entirely in agreement with you that the pros and cons of it should be made available to a person who is taking a vaccine. But the point is, India is not UK. Given the literacy levels, if you go to a rural area, can you take the consent of every person who is in the public space? It's not possible. So, given the limitations of the urgency with which, you see, a lot of figures have been quoted about mortality coming down, mortality increasing, etc. Do we have the figures of how many of them are vaccinated? Except in Atlanta CDC, I do not think we have the advantage of figures of how many of those who died are those who are fully vaccinated. So, in a 2-hour discussion, I don't think we can enter into a scientific debate. The point I am submitting for your consideration is, in a situation where you need to roll out, and then you have to overcome the fear of people who are really, in my own house, the first incidence of COVID was reported from my tenant. People stopped walking on the road in front of my house in 2020 April. So that was the kind of situation. So you could have had many choices. This is the point I'm trying to.
Sir, there should be a postmortem or autopsy, sir, for scientific evaluation. Without postmortem or autopsy, how can anyone decide that they have died because of this or they have died because of that? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Chakrabarti Garu. And Bhaskar, you want to comment something? Before that, we'd like to, you can always use the mic. So, I would like to open up a new perspective. We were talking about that long time back, sir. We spoke about our friend, Dr. Venugopal, as well as Dr. Srinivas, late Srinivas, and Srinivasul Gadgo. They were instrumental in There was a thing called brain fever in AB, and I can always tell you, these people's initiative helped. Even the government approved homeoprophylaxis for this brain fever, which was very prevalent in some parts in Andhra Pradesh. And this homeo team had a great success with that. So I was always trying to get in touch with him. Let us hear from Venugopalji what homeoprophylaxis has to offer in coming pandemics. Because we are talking about now some monkeypox, some chicken, so many things are going to come one by one. So let us,
I just wanted to show that. I just wanted to show this slide. So this is a graph of the excess deaths in Europe in the 15 to 44 years age group. The excess is computed over and above the average of 3 previous years, which is 2017, 18, 19.
I have just spoken to the first dermatologist who flew from US to my channel, and he said, he said,
the 5 years or so, 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
I lost my live show.
From this, can you guess as to what is the pandemic year? 2020. Sorry? Here this is B is 20, E is 21. Okay. So the answer is B is 20. In the under 45 age group, the whole of Europe, there was no excess deaths. Statistically speaking,
discuss for 40 minutes.
in 2020.
That's it. That
They shot up. E is 2021. Right here.
And add stick for Supreme Court.
So, when you say that there was a scientific consensus that universal vaccination was needed,
सब कुछ ले लिया ना डाटा दो ऑर्डर
that may have been the case because scientific results
उसका जब
were under years ago.
अभी बता चुके हैं
Because there was no data.
how can that not be artifacts that was my simple take sent it to them
To look at this data,
पूरा जो भी
this is all available in India data,
serious I'm on record because I keep sending to everyone
okay. This was available at the end of 2020.
शो करने के बाद तो
Why did you not go for mass vaccination of an experimental jab in the under 45 age group?
क्या present किया
And there was no problem.
it is today
Absolutely no problem.
code should not be applied to governance to
Even lesser than
खाली तीन issue
2017 as well as 2018. It was lesser. Not only this is only the people
आज ही नहीं मैं
if you remove UK
थोड़े जर्नलिस्ट में फोन करके बोल रही है क्या बात कर रहे हैं सब बात कर रहे
data
हैं
and plot the same graph for
कोविड एक
under
बार सेटल
65.
उसको
Plot the same graph for under 65. You will not see a problem in under 65 in 2020.
आप और पास्टर हम दोनों मिलके
So the entire crisis has been manufactured. The fear has been manufactured. So, I mean, I understand your perspective that administrators have to respond to whatever, but we also have to understand that the entire fear psychosis in the media has been manufactured very likely to push these not needed vaccines. And there are not even
get into that fourth
the reason why they are pushing boosters, so far negative reasons, is that even boosters are not working. This is what is shown on data across the world. They know it also. Even Fauci has admitted himself that if you have two jabs, well, after 6 months, you have no disease because it doesn't affect the screen. Okay, so I just wanted to show this. In the young healthy population, there has not been a COVID problem. As is shown in countries, data from countries, which means diligent data.
ये और जो पहले आप एपिडेमियोलॉजी का पेपर दिए और ये और पास्टर का स्टैटिस्टिक्स ओके
Namaskar to the chairman Praveen Saxena ji, intellectuals and senior gentlemen like Chakrapani sir, Venkateshwarlu sir, and Dr. Veena Raghav ma'am, all the assembled gentlemen here. And also online, we have some resourceful persons like Dr. Amitabh Banerjee ji and good journalists like Dr. Sivrat Reddy garu. It's an honor for me to share a few things about homeopathy amongst you. It's an honor for me. And homeopathy and vaccines were born probably at around the same time in 1790. And 1796, it was later Edward Jenner who popularized vaccinations for smallpox and later other things. But things have moved on, science has moved on, and homeopathy has gone through various challenges, and it has always risen to the task. Whenever there was a challenge like a pandemic or an epidemic, for that matter, it was Father Samuel Hahnemann who advocated for the epidemics like influenza during that period of time. And there was enough data probably in 18th and 19th century. And unfortunately, when the need of the hour arose in this particular century, it's indeed a very, very sad thing to say that we were not given the opportunity to reach common. There was a little randomized, double-blinded study on the use of COVID nosol and few homeopathic remedies for prevention of COVID-19. Amongst the 4,300 people who were enrolled, 2,300 people completed the a particular task in a period of 6 weeks, and there were hardly any infection during that period of time. And let me also tell you, that was a time when there was no vaccination. I'm talking about May and June 2020. And there was enough exposure, and this was the study was conducted by Dr. Rajesh Shah and team in Mumbai, and the Central Council for Research in Homeopathy also did a similar study in Delhi, and there were very effective results. But it's so unfortunate that the government did not make notice of the fact. When Dr. Saxena sir said that, when unsound data is used to make decisions, scientific decisions, it will definitely go in the wrong way. I think homeopathy and common man suffered this way. I can also say, as far as homeopathy is concerned, India is the superpower. We have lost an opportunity. Of course, by the time the second wave came in, there was no restriction on any physician to practice their system of medicine. And it was so sad that in the first 45 days of the lockdown,
so that
it was only, for example, in Telangana, even the private clinics were supposed to be closed.
My own experience. Because I have to set it straight, because I am on record everywhere. Our channel links are everywhere. International Court of Trade, Supreme Court of America. They have all accepted what is there now new.
Doctor is not available
because
for patients.
These are all records.
There could be some COVID restrictions. We could have some marginalizing of people. You would effort. Always call them only when necessary. You can make some serious decisions on that talk, but completely avoiding clinics was not a
it is a blast.
very great thing.
इसीलिए मैं बीच में एक या दो मिनट का करते रहता हूँ. It will enhance it. Don't worry.
Lockdown was opened up, but we were only lucky in the sense that the first innings Europe played and America played, and we know how bad it was there. And by that time, we had some science in our pocket to understand how the disease was going, and we could be better prepared to face the disease. But also, let me tell you, on part of the homeopathic fraternity, we are happy and proud that we could live up to the task when by the time the first lockdown was opened up, and we were given an opportunity to treat patients, and more often than not, the patients who ended up taking homeopathic medicine as a treatment per se did not need the hospitalization, did not need the need for oxygen, and they recovered better. And we are talking of so many long COVID cases today. And I can tell you, in the first and second round, we have treated 1,500 patients at a one small outpatient setup. And I don't see more than 10 or 15 people today coming to me that I had COVID at that point of time. I'm talking about the people whom we treated with homeopathy. They do not have all these side effects of the disease or the medication. So I request the government also from on this platform to see that the COVID note sword is available at the earliest. You could say the COVID is gone. Why do you need the COVID note sword now? Well, that's because if there is one thing that Saxena sir will agree, inflammation is the key to many diseases today, and inflammation was the reason why COVID could attack the human system, immune system so dangerously. So if we can have a COVID no now, we have a better drug in hand to see that homeopathically we are able to treat not just influenza or any infectious diseases, but also all the cause of all diseases, mostly in the lifestyle and metabolic disorders of the day, the inflammation. If we have the COVID nosode in hand, we have a better weapon in hand. Thank you so much, sir.
One thing I would like to add, Dr. Venugopal, there was a holistic bill which was passed by both the houses of parliament and even in Rajya Sabha too, as Dr. Saxena is trying to integrate now. The same integration was done by our politicians in April 2020, and parroting was done by all politicians till May 2020. For reasons best known to them, they have stopped. Now at least Dr. Saxena had got the courage to integrate this. And the other aspect is the Kerala model which has been presented to the world. Now take it from me, our channel has very clearly brought it out. Kerala government has made scientific studies by making Ayurveda and homeopathy medicines distributed all over Kerala, and it is on record. And after that, why they are silent? Only Kerala government, Kerala political parties and union government, ICMR, everyone has to answer. They have got wonderful results. It is on record.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I'd like to invite Justice Narayana Garu. Your thoughts about let's something legal is. I think it's about the government and all that.
Dear friends, as far as these challenges are concerned, since I am not an expert, I may not be able to tell anything. But I noticed a very interesting thing. In the morning walking group, one of our friends, a very senior IAS officer who laid down the office long ago and 2 years ago, 80 now. He had not taken vaccine. It is Sri Venkateswar. I do not know. I had taken, all our friends had taken, maybe certain others also might have not taken, I don't know. A few were reluctant to take.
relating to this policy of vaccination, whether the opinion is positive or negative. Several expert bodies, after lengthy deliberations, came to a proper conclusion. Whether it is right or wrong, I am not at that point at all. But since it is a very interesting episode, I request Sri Venkateswarlu to explain why he was of that opinion. With this, now I request Sri Venkateswarlu to come and explain. Okay.
Telling something about Venkateswarlu. He is a master in nutrition medicine, and he talks about a lot of health supplements and all that, apart from his homeopathic knowledge.
Thank you, Srinamaji. Thank you, Jentigaru, for asking me a specific question on why I didn't take vaccination. As a believer in homeopathy, I always think in terms of individual immunity. As already pointed out by a few doctors, individuals, especially, we have biological individuality. Each individual is different from each other. So mass vaccination is something, say, unacceptable. As Mr. Chakravarti has already pointed out, when the house is on fire, government is incapacitated from not taking a decision. I totally agree with him. But as a believer in homeopathy, as a believer in nutrition as the basis of life, all the human beings are animals, or birds, plants, are born or sea-born animals only. We have started our life as a single cell. From a single cell to the extent of 100 trillion cells, we are built on nutrition, and not on drugs. And it is to the credit of Hahnemann, who created allopathy by calling the system which is different from homeopathy as allopathic, different system. So allopaths should take, say, credit from Hahnemann for getting a name for their system. So anyway, I am a believer in nutrition, and I am 79. Fortunately for me, I don't have any diseases of chronic nature which are associated with aging. Aging is only a number. It's only a number. Don't think that you are old. Say, normally in morning walks, say, our friends always jocularly say that, hey, you are going to live 100. I protest. Say, why do you say 100? I am going to live beyond that. So, at home, we are 10 in number. It's a joint family. All of the elders have taken vaccination. I said, I don't object to it because it's their individual choice. We can't prescribe things to individuals when their life is at stake I believe that vaccination is ineffective, but they don't believe in it. సో ఇంట్లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఇంకో చెట్టు వైద్యానికి పనికిరాదు అంటారు. సో దట్ వే I didn't take vaccination. And immunity, our own innate immunity is effective against all diseases. And most of the chronic degenerative diseases are being cured by nutrition and nutrition alone, not by drugs. In allopathic system, they are treating the end result of a disease, which they call by way of symptoms. They are not going into the causative factors of them. And the causative factors remain, and they once again spring back with the double vigor, and they are ineffective. That way, in allopathy, they say, even in America, in an advanced country like America, the people who are dying by the prescription drugs every year are 254,000. This is the recorded thing. And it is equal to 2 aeroplanes crashing every 2 days. Who with, say, sane mind will enter that plane? So that is allopathy. And I don't believe in drugs. I believe in innate individuality, innate immunity, and nutrition. That's why I wrote a book in Telugu, Aharame Aushadham, food is medicine. And my second book is already published in English, and the title is challenging. It is Be Healthy Till You Breathe Your Last. Thank you.
So, and I really acknowledge you, sir, the way you had worked out about that. And I'd like to bring in Dr. Sudha. Sudha, are you there? She's from Boston. And Sudha, if you're there, we can always take a quick word with you. And Sudha is a allopath, and she believes in naturopathy. So somehow there are other people also are there. If Sudha is not responding, I can always...
I'm here, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, Sudha, why don't you switch your video, please? Okay, Sudha, you can go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. So, thank you so much for taking this, opportunity. It is 7 a.m. for me in Houston. So I'm logging in from Houston, Texas. So can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I just want to say I'm practicing every day in the clinic, and I'm seeing patients in and out right now. So whatever happened post-vaccination is after today, whatever we are talking is vaccination is over. So what are we physically seeing on the ground? So it's the ground reality is what is happening is they come to the clinic-based practice. Everybody is, so there are 2-3 points, I don't want to take too much time, but 3 points that I want to, bring up. It's an honor to be speaking in an extraordinary scientific forum. So physically right now on the ground data, we are seeing a different kind of sickness wave, wide range of sickness wave we are seeing in and out in the hospitals as well as in the small clinics. So here the primary care, I'm a primary care physician. So in the primary care, most of the patients come to the clinic, and the symptoms are so vast, and all the triggering of autoimmune problems and lymphadenopathies, like vague lymphadenopathies, which we can address. And we are like scans, we are doing scans in-house to make sure can we see something? Increased LFTs, dropping in blood cell count, anemia, not so low enough that we admit, but at the same time, everybody is presenting with anemia, and everybody is presenting with increased LFTs, and everybody is presenting with flare-ups of their old autoimmune problems like diabetes, which they are very well controlled. Very well controlled. I do nutrition as well as allopathy completely. So I am a 100% allopathic physician, but I believe in nutrition, as the previous doctor has said. Yes, nutrition is the key. Without the nutrition, that's why we are not confident about the allopathic drugs today, just because the allopathy neglected the nutrition. That's the whole thing. When we neglect the nutrition, then the drugs also don't work properly. And then right now, the only one question I want to ask is, here, I'm begging the pharmacy people to let me prescribe ivermectin, but they are not. I want to understand the forum. What is the agenda behind why they are not letting physicians like us prescribe a simple medicine called ivermectin? It is not FDA approved, and I can lose my license if I prescribe ivermectin in US. Why are you not letting me prescribe ivermectin? Ivermectin is a patented, proven, Nobel Prize achieved and passed all the regulatories. The drug which has passed all the regulatories at this pandemic time, we are restricted using ivermectin in countries like US. I'm asking the forum. This is like haunting me from 2020 in this country. I am not able to prescribe ivermectin as much as I want to, and I get warning letters if I'm writing a prescription and the pharmacy calls me saying that you are prescribing a non-FDA approved drug. So that is one point, that it did not make sense. We are all vaccinated. We can't work in the hospitals during vaccination. Yes, we are vaccinated, but at the same time, we are continuing to vaccinate in the clinic as an organization. I don't have a choice here, even though I don't want to, but it's an organization, this thing. We are going for 4th booster now. But the kind of sickness, yesterday I had 5, again, we can talk on about testing. Yesterday, I still have COVID positive, 5 cases in my clinic. We are still doing the telemedicine here. We keep them in the car, we keep them in the parking lot, we test them, and then they call us by telemedicine. And I still can't prescribe ivermectin as of today. They're all vaccinated. They're all boosted. They're all 3rd booster. But the COVID still coming back positive. My question is, if the vaccine was effective, why are we still getting positive as 2022 June? And what is the tool I have as a physician? What is the tool that the governments are? I'm asking each and every government, what is the tool that you're supporting physicians like a simple physician, a small physician like me? What is the tool that you supported back then, and what is the tool that you're supporting me other than vaccination? Give me a tool where I can treat the COVID, because I'm physically there seeing 30, 40 patients a day in and out of the clinic. What is the tool? How did the scientific data help me, a small physician like me? What should I use now?
No, we'll do one thing.
I'm going back to my peer review. I'm going back to my peer reviews of ivermectin and vitamin D and all that. And that was like, we are still lost other than pushing a 4th booster. But the data, again, whatever Dr. Saxena and we were done together, I'm still pushing the same thing, and it's working. Even though I don't have ivermectin here, we came up with something different, and it's working. And that's what I'm using, and that's what I'm saving people. It's working. And the kind of post-vaccination complications that we are seeing here is tremendously mind-boggling, heart-wrenching. I don't have words to say, and we don't have any clarity of what's going on of this mRNA vaccine. Huge lymphadenopathies, huge autoimmune disorders, liver hematomas, liver masses, ovarian twists, abnormal bleeding, postmenopausal bleeding, spleen enlargement, hepatomegaly, gastric bleeding, chest pains, 3 Bell's palsies yesterday. The kind of OPD clinics that we are seeing is mind-boggling. It's like there is no link to anything. I mean, what is happening is the question I'm asking again. It's over. The vaccination is over. Please help me handle the autoimmune disorders. It's over. It's done. The fire is down. But the house is not covered with ashes are there. But as people are still suffering. People are coming to the clinics. There is a tremendous amount of increase of patient clinical, patient footfall. But we don't have any answers. I can't help him. I don't have any solutions for them unless screening and coming, screening them. And what do you do? What do I do? Biopsy everybody? Send everybody for biopsies? A small lymphadenopathy from 5 centimeters to 7, I should send everybody. I'm sending everybody for biopsies.
Yeah, I think, Sudha, what you have been doing for so many years and what we have seen your passionate work, but somewhere this has to be, I thought the audience should know what the passion and how these numbers of chronic diseases are rising day by day. And somewhere there has to be some kind of group of people who should stand in front and start, because I'm not happy picking up the patients, they come to us, but we are not able to do some justice to them. So coming back to the word justice, we have with us Dipali Ojaji, and she has worked very hard, took it to the highest level. Chakmayanji, let us listen what Dipali Oja has to say. Thank you, Dipali ji, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me today. Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah, it's quite audible.
Yes. So good evening to all, and it's really a proud moment for me to be in this esteemed gathering today. And I'm so happy that now all the doctors and intellectuals from our country have come together. And yes, we are working towards building a very tough resistance against those who have been thrusting on us everything that is unscientific and which is unlawful and unconstitutional since March 2020. I could not agree more with what Dr. Sudha was explaining right now regarding ivermectin. In fact, ivermectin was the topic which brought me into this battle, into this war, I would say, because it was in last year, around May 2021, that we had served a legal notice to the chief scientist of WHO, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, regarding her disinformation campaign around ivermectin. And at that time, I had studied the available research papers and the patient testimonials which I could find on the websites of FLCCC, which is the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance in US, and that on the website of BIRD, which is British Ivermectin Recommendation Development Panel, which is led by Dr. Tess Lawrie. So I got a chance to, come to know about how these alternative treatments are suppressed. And moreover, I was very shocked rather to know that physicians who are treating patients on ground, I am not a doctor, so I'm definitely not the person who could comment on which treatment is effective, which is not, definitely not. But I am definitely a keen observer and a vigilant citizen when I see that certain doctors who are treating patients on ground level and they are finding certain things or they're observing certain drugs or alternative therapies being very effective in treating patients. How could bodies like WHO, whose officials typically sit in the offices in Geneva, and they are not the ones who are treating patients, definitely not. So how could they come with a diktat or a mandate saying that a particular drug should not be used? Fortunately, in India, it has always been off and on with ivermectin because throughout the year, the periods of this COVID-19 chapter, ivermectin was included, removed, again included, and finally it went off the national protocol somewhere in September 2021. I do not know what were the reasons for these inclusions and exclusions each time, because if the task force considers it to be necessary to include in the national protocol. Why was it removed? Only to be included later, and finally it was off. So that question still goes on in my mind as to what is really happening, and it all points out only to one thing, that clearly there is a push for these experimental products, which they call as vaccines. And I have read material which clearly make out that vaccines, effective vaccines, before a vaccine is termed as effective and safe to be administered to the population, be it any population, it takes at least 8 to 10, sometimes 15 years to consider a vaccine to be safe. And here we have hurriedly rolled out vaccines, the COVID jabs as most of people call them. And these have been hurried in a very, very less span of time. And the narrative which goes on is just the other way, that, it's something a feat, it's kind of a feat which has been achieved by rolling out the vaccines in, such a smaller span of time. And now, more than a year into this vaccination campaign across the globe, where every speaker here has been talking about the adverse effects which they are seeing, they are witnessing everywhere in their area of practice or in their country, in other regions, I think it's high time we should raise the alarm, because the media, which has been very controlled, and by these very industries which have vested interests in pushing these medical products, the media will never let the common public, general public know that yes, these adverse events are truly happening. Now, this is about vaccine. Now, one area which I would not take more than a couple of minutes is about the RT-PCR tests. As the previous speakers have said, that we need to ask the right questions and not blindly follow what is being thrown at us or what is being thrust upon us in terms of administrative circulars or some orders of the government. In RT-PCR test, when we saw the Delta variant coming in, or maybe the Omicron variant coming in, one question rose in my mind, and that was, would the RT-PCR test differentiate between a Delta variant or an Omicron variant? To which I have not got a conclusive answer. What I understand is it's always symptoms which are being laid out, identified, and one would just generalize that, it's a Omicron variant or a Delta variant. And I have been fortunate to be in touch with some of the, renowned domestic within India as well as global personalities who are from, they are scientists or they belong to the research field, and who have said that definitely relying on RT-PCR test to verify whether a person is infected by COVID-19 or not is definitely not the right way. It has to be clinical symptoms, and it cannot be putting the whole population on hold, or locking down the whole population is definitely not a practice of good public health policy. So I think there are many areas that we all need to raise questions, and raising questions coming in from the awakened people across all the sections of society, be it scientists, be it doctors, be it lawyers, and be it investigative journalists, be it civil society. I think this would make the government rethink on what the policies that they continue to, continue putting in place. And I think that would definitely lead us to, protecting the truth and protecting the real science. And with this, I conclude my address. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed being here today, listening to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dipali ji. It was wonderful. And we had always looking for, we want to have alliance with something like people, medical professionals are not just looking for this one. We want help from the other sides also. The kind of help Bhaskar Ramanji gives us is phenomenal, and we would definitely like to work on the kind of thing in the interest of the people. And we created this society. We have created this society called UHO, and somewhere I felt it's a apolitical society, sir. We are not for any kind of this one, and we have straight down some this one clauses and all that. It's quite open in the public domain, and it was I think this is one of the wonderful works, and I am happy that I am got associated with all of you people. And because of lack of time, we have told 6:30 is the closing time here, and I cannot take any more people into. We'll try to include. I think Jignesh Kokani was keen on putting some things. We'll try to put it next time, Jignesh ji. And thanks for putting all the.
If you allow,
Yeah.
Praveen ji, if you can allow me for 2 minutes, I would like to say something if it's okay for everyone.
Please.
Really, it was very nice to be the part of the whole meeting. And I listened almost everyone. And what I found, what was very common point that every doctor said is about the vaccination. And I absolutely agree to Chakrapani sir that the situation, the conditions in which all this thing has happened, it has never, it was just unprecedented virus. Virus is not a new one for medical science. Since beginning, all of us know. So I'll just make three quick points, and then I'll conclude that what exactly I want to say. Number one,
you have to understand the theme of the meeting was childhood vaccinations, and are we justified in giving this vaccination?
I'm coming to that point. So the point is that, as Chakrapani sir has said, that the whole world believes in the modern medicines more over the traditional medicines. So in the modern medicines, to fight against the virus, you have got very limited chances. And all the doctor knows that fundamentally it is always the steroids, lower, higher, or maximum stage of steroid which is being used for any kind of virus infection. Let it be herpes, let it be hepatomegaly. I mean, we can talk names of the viruses, but fundamentally the final medicine is always immunosuppressant, which all of us we know. And we all as a medical fraternity know that immunosuppressant has its own limitation and has its own side effects. Now the question is, when the virus is being created naturally, which comes because of the mutation, and the virus which is being created into the laboratory, it has a two different, behavior pattern. So once we compare a virus which is naturally muted and the virus which is laboratory generated, and the whole global community has been taken on the ransom. And this is not the first time. We have seen the bird flu also. If you look at the bird flu data, fundamentally only 5 people are dead across the world. Only 5 people. But the business was the vaccine which was for the bird flu, which was costing 550 rupees, has gone to 5,500 rupees. And the person who was a Senate member of the US, within 2 years, he became the 5th richest person in the US.
What was your question?
We all know the pharmaceutical lobby, vaccinations, and lobbying of the virus, we all know. Now the question is, are we going to continue this all the time? Because every 2 years, new virus will come. Ebola has come, SARS-1 has come, this SARS-2. Then next, after 2 years, some other one will come. Then the virus will never stop coming. So the question is that this time the government has taken, rather I'm talking about a global world as well as Indian government. I talk about two parts. The Ministry of Ayush,
That's the reason the Venkateshwarji has told why he has not taken vaccine is because of his nutritional kind of stuff, as well as the reason why we wanted homeoprophylaxis people to understand is that.
No, I'm not talking only about homeopathy. I'm talking about Ministry of Ayush as a whole. Because the way Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is there, which is responsible for the health and welfare of the whole society, a similar way, Ministry of Ayush is equally responsible. And now the achievement of 2 years has made WHO to believe that traditional therapies are more effective compared to allopathy, particularly in the case of corona, because there are 50,000 medical papers published by the WHO so far on COVID-19. Out of that, 2,000 papers are from the traditional therapy, particularly Ayurveda, homeopathy. And out of that, they have found that 99.15%, this medicine has been found very effective scientific level. As a result of that, now the WHO has accepted India to be the center for research and development into the traditional therapy on 20th April 2022. This is an achievement of India on the global level, as well as into the medical healthcare industry, that why India has a better healthcare solution for the whole world, not only for Indian people. So we have proved that not only for the vaccine, because previously a lot of people have talked about vaccination to be created in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, animal trials and other things. But fundamentally, the vaccinations are available in Ayurveda also. And this is available for 1,000 years. Unfortunately, many doctors have not studied about it, so they are not aware about it, is a different part. But now, as far as the vaccination is concerned, let me just conclude in 2 minutes. So in the government of Gujarat and government of Uttar Pradesh, government of Madhya Pradesh, government of Karnataka, they had officially allowed the traditional therapy to work along with the allopathic medicines, and they found that there was almost or no necessary to have hospitalization or even the oxygen support, and the death ratio was almost zero. So all these conclusions, these all data are available. If somebody is interested, it is available on the website of Ministry of Ayush and e-Sanjeevani mobile application. All these data are available. So the just last one word for Dr. Sudhaji, who is from the US. She was asking for a solution for COVID-19. So for the global level, Ayush 64 is an official medicine for any mild or moderate patient of COVID-19 by Government of India and Ministry of Ayush. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, we'll close the session. Thank you all for those who came online as well as those who joined in person. Thanks, everybody.
I'm very impressed with what you have presented.
Thank you.